Okay, so let's get things started here. How's everybody? I hope that you are all having a good week. I would assume that you are going through a lot of tests this week. So it must be, yes, very busy week. It must be stressful. I hope that you are eating well, drinking well, getting yourself a lot of rest, because for an intense week like this, you need that. You need some breaks, you need to be able to breathe a little bit. So hopefully by tomorrow, yes, Christine, I believe that. So hopefully by the end of tomorrow, you will be done with all your tests or your exams, and you can enjoy a little bit more the weekends. It will be a bit of a wet weekend. Late Saturday you're gonna start with some rain, and early Sunday as well. Yeah, I get it, Sanjeev. It's a hard time with COVID-19, but let's look at the positive sides. Let's look at the reopening. Things are starting to reopen. Now we can go out a little bit more. We can be out there a little bit more. Yes, the weather is very hot, but you know what? Hot is better than cold, to be quite honest. I think, that's my take. So go outdoors a little bit, have a walk, rest your mind a little bit if you can, whenever you can. Again, try to go out as well. Don't stay all the time indoors like me. Sanjit, thanks so much. You sent that privately, but thank you for the note on the Udemy course. If by any chance, if anyone does not know about the Udemy course, I have a machine learning course on Udemy. If you want to get it for free, just let me know. I will share the URL to get it for free, so anyone can get it for free. But you should have received an email from me. Thanks so much for anyone that has joined. I hope that you enjoyed that, not for this week, but for weeks later. And you don't have to code to learn machine learning, okay? Great. Okay, so tomorrow is our midterm, okay? So the idea of today is for us to go through the exercise, through the patient exercise. If you have done Comp 1, 2, 3 with me, you know that I like to, in a hands-on test, I like to do an exercise before the test so that it warms you up for the test. It's an exercise that's, in a way, it's quite similar to the test. And if you do the exercise well, if you get your questions answered, if you have your doubts cleared out during this class, you're gonna be prepared, you're gonna be ready for your test. You may have submitted questions for bonus 7, if I'm not mistaken, and that's about the exercise. So have those questions open as I go through the exercise. Today I'll be demonstrating the entire exercise, okay? So again, have your questions answered. Use this time well. This is the time for me to explain you, give you details, and get you ready for the test, okay? As you have seen, assignment 1 has been released, the grades. I still need to review for, let's say, for duplications, which I'm hoping that it won't happen here. So hopefully you will not hear from me, but just keep in mind that I'm still checking for, I still need to run the check for duplication. So hopefully, again, nobody will be worried about that, okay? Good, okay. Before I get things started, are there any questions about exercise or about anything else that you want to ask me, ask in the chat, ask on Padlet, anything? Don't forget to submit your bonus. Yes, someone is telling me that he has forgotten to submit the bonus. Don't do that. But that's okay. It's a little bonus. You still have a lot of bonus to cover for that, okay? So most likely you will not miss that little bonus there, okay? Okay, so let's get things going because it's a tight deadline today. It's a tight class today. It's a lot to cover for the exercise, and I want to go deeper in the exercise and give you time to interact, to ask questions as well. Okay, so as I go through it, ask your questions. Good. Okay, so let's open the exercise. I'm gonna zoom in here in the text. So I'm gonna read it through and you're gonna follow step by step of this, okay? So your website is a registration tool for adding patients to a medical system. Registered patients will be held in a repository, in an in-memory repository, not a database, not a file, a local file, not a JSON file or a text file, just in the memory. We'll be using a list to do this, okay? After registering a patient, display a thank you view stating, patient has been successfully registered as occupation on date and time. So patient you're going to replace by the patient name, occupation by the occupation, and current date and time by the date and time that the patient has been registered. Okay, so that's what it says. That's why this is all in bold. Replace the bold elements. They are dynamic. Your site will include navigation for returning to the registration page to enter more patients and to a patient list. This patient list will consist of a list of all information about the patient. So right here, we can see right down here, how many views do we have in this exercise? How many views? At the very least, how many views do we have here? Just based on those two paragraphs. Exactly, we have 3. We have the thank you, we have the registration, and we have the list, okay? However, I'm gonna add one more just because I like to have systems that have a homepage, a welcome page, okay? So it's not asking here. There will be nothing wrong if you did not create that, that's fine. But I'm gonna add an index view that says welcome to the system. This is what you can do with the system. So we're gonna create 4 views. Simple index, welcome, and then form, list, and thank you, okay? Great. And there you go. So all shared elements on the page should be contained in a layout file. And a single CSS file should be containing all styling elements for the site. It doesn't mean that you could not use Bootstrap, you can. However, even if you use Bootstrap, you should add your own CSS file because I want to see that you know how to do it, okay? So use your own CSS. Some people in the assignments, they have not added their own CSS file. I took a few points, but nothing major.
Professor, I have a question here.
Yes. Go ahead.
Hello, Professor.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Professor.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, so you can go ahead and ask your question.
For the CSS file, suppose we created some size for the some tag like for body or some H1 or H2
Okay.
whatever. But when sometimes we just try to implement for one tag inside a view file. So, but if we inherit it inside the view file, but it automatically implement for all the tags. Like for if we define the 10 H1 tags, so it will automatically implement it for all H1. So is there any way to implement for specific one for only one tag or 2 tags inside the view file?
So let's do this. When we are talking about the view a little bit later today, bring that question again because I to be honest, I didn't fully understand that. So ideally, ideally I would like to see your screen to see what you're referring to. It seems that you are adding to the layout, not to the views. Yeah. Remember, if you add to the layout, that is gonna show on all views. If you add something to the layout, it will show on all views. If you want a certain tag to be displayed only to certain views, you have to add the tag to that specific view. Is that what you are referring to?
Yes.
Okay, does that make sense what I'm describing?
Yes.
Okay, and again, you're gonna see that we're gonna be dealing with the layout file in a second, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so Samira has a point here. Always we have to create different home page because my part, I do registration part in Linux. That's fine, Samira, that's fine. That's okay. As I said, I am creating a home, but if you have used your home to be your registration page or your home to be the list of patients, that will be fine as well. Okay? That's all good. You can find your body using tags, okay? Great. Awesome. Okay, so let's keep going here. So, functionality. Let's create an ASP.NET 2.1 MVC project using an empty template project, okay? Very important, empty one. I saw some people in the assignments using an MVC template. So let's start from scratch. Let's do this well, okay? So I'm gonna open here Visual Studio. I'm gonna go to File, New Project. And then we're gonna select ASP.NET Core Web Application. If you don't have this under recent templates, you can search for that. So select that, make sure that it's set to C#. Let's hit next. And here we put the name. I didn't ask for any particular name here, so I'm just gonna say patient system. I'm gonna call it patient. In the test, I'll be asking for a very specific name, okay? So pay attention to that. During the test, I'll be asking for one specific name. So patient system, I can keep the same solution name, that's fine. You can either keep it checked or keep it unchecked, it doesn't matter too much, okay? But important thing, the name, and you can keep the same solution name. Let's hit create. Okay, so a few important points here. First one, the version. We should be selecting .NET Core, not .NET Framework. And the version we are using is 2.1. Okay, so very important that we keep it consistent so you don't get confused with different methods and parameters. So again, make sure that you stick to this version. The template, empty template, let's use that, okay? So we do things from scratch, step by step. Empty template, not this one here, not model view controller. It comes with a lot of extra stuff for you. So again, let's start with an empty one. Samira, can we rename this name project later? Okay, good point. So Samira's asking if we can rename the project later after we create it. Samira, I would recommend not to do that because you can very easily get into complications because there are many different places that you have to change that. So start with the right name. Start with the right name, okay? That's really my suggestion. If you change that, you may get into complicated problems, you know? That's my recommendation here. Sheikha, does it matter if we use 2.0 because that's what I've been using since the beginning of the semester? It does matter, Sheikha. It does matter. I mean, let's use 2.1. I've been, since the beginning of the semester, I've been saying, let's use 2.1, it's 2.1, it's 2.1. It does matter, okay? So keep that one. Again, if you go 2.2, if you go 2.0, I'm not gonna take points from it, but you may get stuck into a few different things, okay? That's my recommendation. Christine, are we going to get penalized for having the incorrect name? I mean, for the test? Yes, but the name is very simple, Christina. I mean, there is no reason why you can go wrong with the name. I'm just asking you, give this name to the project, and then you give it. That's it. It's just a simple request, okay? Now, I'm gonna ask you to add your user ID to the name of the project as well. But that's it. It's not a big deal, okay? I don't see why you go wrong there. It's just a little simple instruction. Put this name and your user ID. That's it. No, that's fine. That's fine. If you put spelling, if it's a spelling mistake, that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna be penalizing you because you made a spelling mistake. That's okay. That's fine. Okay. Okay. Yeah, and good point, Philippe. If you realize in the beginning that, oh, I made a spelling mistake in the name, and you have not done much in your project yet, you can just start a new project. That's it, okay? If you have already started your project and you did some code already, then don't go backwards because, again, you're going to be losing time there, okay? So, first, the version. Second, empty template. Third one, configure HTTPS. Uncheck this option, okay? Uncheck the option. Because if you keep HTTPS, you may get into complications from your side. When I'm reviewing your test, your assignment, I'll get into complications myself as well. Some people, during assignments, they have kept this option. Not too many people, but some kept this option checked, so it becomes slightly harder to check your solution there, okay? If you are using Visual Studio 2017, I think that the option is the opposite of this one. It's you have to check it not to be HTTPS. So it's kind of the opposite of this one here if you are using Visual Studio 2017. Anyway, 3 points, version, empty, and no HTTPS, and then we can hit create. And here we have, okay, so a basic .NET Core application. That's really it. It's not MVC yet. It's not really MVC because there is nothing about MVC on it yet. We're gonna start to add them. Now, if I ask you, there's no right order to put things in place. You can skip orders, you can change orders. We're gonna do what we feel more natural here. So, if I ask you, what could be our next step here? What would you do next here to start setting things up here? Okay, so you have those two options. You can do the folders or you can do the startup, okay? I'm gonna start with the folders just because it's my personal preference, but you could very much start from the startup file, okay? So let's go to the folders. We have to create, remember, 3 folders, and they must have a very specific name, specific names. Right click in your project, go to add, new folder, and then we're gonna go modules, again, add, new folder, controllers, and once again, we're gonna go for the views. Again, pay attention. Those are the very specific names. They have to be plural, okay? So if you change that, maybe things will not work that well, okay? Okay, great. So we have 3 folders here. And then let's take care of our startup. As some people said, MVC folder, startup, doesn't matter. I just created the folders. I'm gonna go now to the startup file, to the startup class, okay? So there are 3 things that we should take care of here, actually 4 things. By the way, as we go through this, write down some notes. The test is open book. You can open the solution. The solution, actually, the source code is already provided on the Centennial. You can download it from there. You can open this project while you have your project open as well. However, make sure that you don't copy this project to be your starting project for your tests, because this may get you to complications. You have to rename the project. So again, don't go there. Start a new project from scratch using Visual Studio. Don't copy an existing project, okay? Don't do that because, again, you have to rename it and you may get into complications when you try to do that, okay? So, as I said, write down some notes here so that you have a quick guide for you to do your test as well, okay? Make notes. That's your job as a student, to make notes as well, okay? Great, so what will be the first thing that I do here? Where should I start from? What would be the first method that I would call to start our MVC application? Okay, what will you say? Okay, let's go to configure services here. And then from here, yes, Andrew, let's go services dot add MVC. This is a method, but it has no parameters. Okay, so that's this line. That's the only thing that you need to do under the configure services. And then we can jump to the configure methods, which I start by removing this little hello world template that it brings by default. I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to add what? What should I add here? What should I add to call MVC in the default routing? Because here's the thing. Add MVC, Andrew, but in the test, I'm not going to ask you to work with those tricky routing rules. I'm not going to ask for that. You can just use the default routing rules. The default routing rules, okay? So I'm going to go app default use MVC with default routes. So methods. So using the default routes, if I ask you what is the default controller in the default routes, the name of the default controller, yep, we have home. What about the default action? What is the default action for the default routing? The name of the default action, yes. So home default controller, index default action, and what is the name of that parameter that is optional? What is the name of that? That little parameter there that is optional. Yep, ID. Okay, so keep in mind that you have an ID that you can use. You will not need to use for the test nor for this, but you can. You can. Actually, let me give you the step already. In the test, if you want to get the bonus from the test, you're gonna have to know how to use this ID. Okay, I'm gonna mention more about that a little bit later, but there's a bonus point in the test, and it's about using this ID, this optional ID in your application, okay? Great. So we added this line. Is there anything else that I should be doing here before we move on? Anything else that I could do? Andrew is saying use static files. Static files, what is the purpose of static files? What is the purpose of these methods? Here, app static, use static files. What is the purpose of that? The purpose of use static files is to, yes, Shika, yes, Amira, is to allow access to the www root folder. If you don't put this, you won't be able to add an image. Actually, you're gonna add an image, but it won't show up. You're gonna add a CSS, but it won't show up because you're gonna add those things inside the www root folder, inside their own folders, CSS folder, images folder, but without this line, the www root folder will not get activated. Okay? With that, we are in a good place here. We have a good start. We have taken care of our plumbing, the basic plumbing, the basic structure of our web application. Okay. Now, what would be the next step? What would you say we should do next? Again, no particular order here. Actually, you know what? Let's go to the exercise. Let's read a little bit more. So, controllers, yeah, that's a good call. Let's just read a little bit more before we jump to the controller. So, it says all shared elements of the page should be contained in the layout file. We're going to take care of that a little bit later in a single CSS as well, okay? So we did this one. So I'm gonna mark this down. We did create the project. Look, we need to create this view with this bunch of properties here, okay? However, before we can create the view, let's give it a try and be able to run this application. Right now, if we try to run, we're gonna have an error because it's gonna expect a controller and an action, and we don't have them, okay? So we can start by creating the view, or we can start by creating the controller and then create the action and then create the view, okay? Either way, it's fine. You just have to remember that one will pull the other one. If you think about the natural flow of information, you first get the request, the application gets the request, process the request. If it's the default, if it's the root of the site, the default controller is home, the default action is index. So how about we start there? Let's create our controller, okay? So I'm gonna go to controllers, I'm gonna right click there, I'm gonna go to add. You can go to controller. I usually don't like because I don't see it very consistently. Sometimes I see errors with those predefined templates. So I would rather recommend you to go with new item. And then from new item, you're gonna go to class and you're gonna call this home and the keyword controller. So home controller. Okay, I'm gonna add. Here is a brand new and simple class. This class has to inherit from which class? Who does it inherit from? From controller, okay? Controller from the MVC available to our application. So this will inherit from controller. Okay? However, to use controller, we need to add a namespace because we cannot find that naturally. So we're going to go to the bubble here and we're going to go using ASP.NET Core.MVC. MVC is the library that provides the controller to us. Okay? So we added that to the top and now controller works fine. Okay? Then what? What would be the natural next step here? We have the controller, now we need the what? We need the view result, we need the action here. We need the default action, which is called index. Okay? Yep, Prablin, Samira, Andrew, yeah, that's it. So let's go public view result. And the name that you have to give is index. No parameters here. And this will simply return a view. Because we're not giving the name of the view, it's going to be calling the default view, which will be called index as well. So for that, I can go straight in the views folder and create the index inside of it, correct? Like right click, add, new item. Am I missing anything here? Before I create the view, should I create anything else before that? Yes, Shika, yes, the folder, okay? So there is a folder that we need to create under views, which should match the name of the controller, okay? So I right click in the views, I go to add, new folder, and we're gonna call this home. Okay, And now the views, or yeah, the views that are used within the home controller, we're gonna add inside the home folder. So I'm gonna right click there in the home folder. I'm gonna go to add, new item, and then razor view. I'm gonna keep this name, index.cshtml. I'm gonna keep that name there. I'm gonna add, and I'm gonna clean this up. Okay, just gonna remove everything just to start from scratch. Let's think about this for a second. In this index here, I told you I just want to show a welcome message. There's no data about patients. There is no dynamic data at all in this index, okay? So should I add a model here to this view? Should I attach a model to this view? Should I do that, or is there a model that I should add or should send to this view at all? Not really. Yeah, there's nothing there for me to attach to, okay? However, we're gonna be using a layout. It's one of the requirements of the exercise, okay? So we're gonna be using a layout file here. So to be able to use a layout file, we have to specify one thing at the top of our views, okay? In the code block that we open here, we have to say layout equals to, we have to give it a name to the layout. We have not created that yet, but I'm gonna give it the default name for layout. I'm gonna say underscore layout, okay? No extension required. This is C# code, so it ends with a semicolon at the end, okay? Okay, great. So here in the body, or in the main part of my view, I'm just gonna put a little bit of text, just as I said, to give that welcome. Reason of using layout, Sanjib. Okay, everyone, can you help me out answering Sanjib here? The question is, what is the reason for using a layout? Can anyone help me out here? Can anyone help me out with the layout? Yes, Janjit, Samira, Raj, we can reuse, by using a layout, we can reuse the common elements of a regular HTML page. We don't have to duplicate the HTML tag, the head tag, the body tag. There are a lot of common elements. The navigation, we're gonna have links to navigate to the different views. So all of that will be done inside the layout. Okay? Awesome. Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah, thanks so much for the contributions there. No problem. So that's the point of the layout. I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna give it a welcome message. Here's the welcome. I'm gonna add that in a h3 tag. Welcome to the patient system. You will be able to, and then I'm gonna list 2 things that the user will be able to do inside this application. They will be able to register a new patient and see the list of patients. Okay, just a simple message. Not much here, not much going on here. But at this point, are we able to run this application? What can you tell me? Are we able to run without an error here? Not yet. Why not? What is missing for us to be able to hit the run button? What are we missing here? Yes, probably we need to add the layout file. Okay, so the layout file is stored under which folder? Is that under the views? Is that under the home? It's under the views, but views, there's another folder we need to create under views called shared. Okay, so I'm gonna right click on views, add new folder called shared. Okay, and then inside of this folder, I'm gonna create our underscore layout file. So let's go right click, add new item, and then razor layout. Okay, the name should be something that demonstrates that this is a layout. You should have an underscore. Okay, you can change this name, but if you change it here, you have to change it here as well. Okay, I'm gonna add. By the way, we could move this layout to a view start. Okay, however, for the sake of our exercise, the sake of our test, we don't need to use a view start. We are okay to set the layout right where it is. Okay, if you use a view start, that's fine as well. Okay, so our layout very simple. We have common elements: the doc type, HTML tag, head tag, body tag, and then we have the render body methods, which retrieves the contents of the view and put it right here. Okay, one thing that we did not take care yet is the view bag. So we also show the title of the view right here in the title of the layout. We can address this, we can set this in the view itself. So I can go back to the index view, I can say view title equals to, let's call this homepage. Okay, so that's the homepage of the application. Now, I should be in a position to be able to run this. So let's give it a try. Let's run the application. And there we have our view with the options here. That's fine, very simple one, I get it, but we're gonna make it more sophisticated next. Okay, let's keep going with the exercise. So we have done this part so far. Now we need to create the registration view. Okay, so for the registration view, we could start with the view, but this view will be attached to a model. So what should I take care of next? I mean, what would be the natural next step in my process here, in my creation process? What should I create next? What would be natural, more natural here? Yes, Shika. So the model. Let's create the model class, the patient model. Okay. So we're gonna do that under models. Right click, go to add new item, and then I'm going to go for a new class. I'm going to call this class patient. And the patient class will be very simple. We're going to map each property here, each field to a property there. Okay, so I'm just going to walk through briefly the types. Patient name, it's a string. Age, an integer numeric value. Address, string as well. Occupation, string. Has insurance, what could that be? Can anyone tell me what could be has insurance? A boolean. You either have insurance or you don't. Two options, yes or no. Same with had previous operation. Boolean 2, you either had or you didn't. Two options, okay? Now, let's see. What could be marital status? What would you say about that? There are a few possibilities here. Some are better than others, you know. Boolean. Dermic. String. Okay, Boolean. Let's first talk about Boolean. Boolean is a yes or no. Okay? So marital status to be yes or no. I guess that's married, yes or no, single, yes or no, divorced, yes or no, widowed, yes or no. Is that the idea, Dermic? Would that be the idea? the issue, not the issue, but the thing is that you can only be one of those. Okay? Well, maybe you can be divorced and widowed as well. But the point is that in general, you can only be one of those. You are one or the other one. So what you have here is you have marital status that could be set to one of those options. Yes, Dermik, I like that option. I like the drop down. Ashik, this is not really a list of strings. I mean, the options are a list, but the field itself, it's gonna only store one option. It's gonna say it's either married or single or divorced or widowed. Okay? So we could store this as strings. However, it's not very good because we have discrete values. You are better to convert each value of those to a number. 1 for married, 2 for single, 3 divorced, 4 widowed. This could also be, we have seen this on comp123. This is a very good candidate to be what? What type? We saw if you took comp123 with me, you should have an answer for that. This is a very good candidate to be yes. Yes. Inam. Deepa. Raj. Parwinder. Yes, Inam. Now, I'm not going to ask you to make an enum out of that. It will complicate a little bit things, so let's not do that. But between string, integer, and enum, ideally enum. Bit hard there. Let's make it a string. Sorry. Let's make it an integer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't make it a string. If you make it a string, I'm going to accept, but I'm going to say, okay, he or she made a string. It's not the best. No, it's not the great. If you make it integer, you are fine. If you make it enum, you are awesome. Okay? So I'm going to be fine there with an integer right in the middle. Okay? Okay, great. Let's create them. Now, we have one more here. We also have the current date and time that we have to create. We have to have it, but of course, we will not be asking the user to enter that. We're going to be setting the current date and time automatically. Okay? So here we have our patients. Let's start with our public string name. And we're going to make this an auto property here, auto implemented. We have name. Okay, there's a question here. In par invites, we use boolean for will attend. Then that's why I said bool. Oh, you mean boolean with the question mark? Boolean with question mark, it means, actually, let me ask you, what does it mean to have bool with a question mark? Anyone there? And I'll be adding the other ones here. Can anyone answer that? So let's have age. Yes, because it becomes nullable. In our par invites, we were using a boolean with a drop down. The drop down had 3 options. The first one means null. The second one, yes. The third one, sorry. Yes, no, null. So the first one is null. Please select. The second one is yes. The third one is no. So to be able to have a not selected option, a null option as a drop down for a boolean, we have to make it nullable. In our case here, because we're not going to be using a drop down for checkboxes, we will not be using a drop down for booleans. We're going to be using a checkbox. We don't need that, but I'll tell that when we get there. Okay, but that's the idea. So we have name, Let me just do some copy and paste here to speed things up. Again, this code is available already for you under Files on eCentennial. So name, age, address, occupation. Then we have has insurance. We have has insurance and had previous operation. Both of them booleans. Again, no need to do this, okay? Because by not doing that and use boolean, MVC and tag helper will automatically give you a checkbox when we are doing this in the view. You're gonna see that in a second. Then we have marital status, which we're gonna set it up as an integer. We're gonna store 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay? And then we have the registration date. We're gonna have public date time. This is the type that we use to add a date time field. And I'm copying and pasting this. And here we have a get and a set. Okay. Great. So we have our basic class here. Now there's one little detail that I want to take care of right now. The current date and time is supposed to set the current date and time of the registration. Let me see if it says here somewhere. It's just at the top here. Okay. Yeah. I think it's just right here. Yeah, I guess. So, yeah. So, we have to store current date and time. We can set right away registration dates to the current date as soon as we create this object. Okay, so we can say this right here, equals to date time dot now. This will return the date and time, including hour, minute, and milliseconds, and we're gonna set it right away. There are other places you can do that. You can do that as soon as you are about to store the new patient. That's okay as well. Nothing wrong here. There's a question here privately. Okay, so can you use a string for marital status? You can. However, I will tell you right away. You can, it would be fine, it would be good, it would be correct, but it's not optimized. Look at this. Let's say that your system is supposed to be translated. Now you have stored the names of the status in the database. How can you translate that? Or maybe one is no longer, I don't know, married. One now is, it changed for something else. But unless that you are storing, also, it's not efficient because storing strings are way bigger from a file standpoint than integers. So storing a string is not the most efficient use of your database, of your code. I know this is not database, this is memory, but memory as well. You got marital status as a string will occupy a lot more memory than as an integer. Okay, so integers will make this more efficient and more manageable as well. So that's fine if you have used strings, if you are storing the name, the string, but it's not the most efficient way. In the industry, you're not going to be doing that. Okay, I'm sure about that. No company will be storing married, widowed for the marital status of a client. No, it's not the way it's done. There's a code associated with them. Okay, again, there's a right way and there is a possible way, but there's the best way. The best way here is to have a numeric value attached to each code. That's my answer, okay? To the question. Okay, so what else? What's next here? We have our class, and now we need to add add what? What are we gonna do next here, now that we have our model? What should we do next? Now that we have our model, let's do, actually, before, Samira, before the repository, let's take care of our view. Let's take care of our registration view, okay? Now, it's 11:20. Let me give you, yes, we're gonna have to add that model. Shake here, okay? Let me give you 5 minutes. We're gonna take a quick break. Once we come back, we take care of this view and we carry on, okay? 5 minutes and we will be back. Okay, everyone. I just posted the link to the Udemy course for that you can get it for free, okay? I'm just saying that because it will expire tomorrow, not because I want, but because Udemy, that's the way Udemy works. So if you want just to sign up, even if you are not taking it right away, sign up, get it, and take it afterwards, that's fine. But again, it's only free until tomorrow, okay? So again, I'm just following the rules of Udemy. Anyway, that's it. It's about machine learning, by the way. So we stopped here right now on the model. So we just finished our model. We're gonna now create our view. Let's create our view. You can give it any name to your views. I'm gonna call it register. So I'm gonna go to the home, right click, go to add new item, and then I'm gonna create a razor view called register. You can call another name, that's fine, but here it is, register. I usually like to delete everything, get it plain and simple like this. And the first thing that you're gonna do here is what? Because now we have a model to attach to this registration. Model works two ways. I can give a model to the view, or I can get a model out of the view. If I'm giving to the view, it's like I'm displaying a patient. In this case, we are taking it out of the view because the user will fill out the information, click submit button, that information will become a patient automatically because of the model. So, no problem, Samira, Sanjib, again, make good use of that. So, which model should I use here? What should I do with the model? Should I attach to which class? Which class? The patient, yes, the patient class, okay? So patients, okay? However, we have a problem here. Houston, we have a problem. How do we solve this problem, Houston? How do we fix that? What's the deal here? There are two ways that you can fix that. Let's see. Yes, we can. We could add the entire namespace here. You can say patient system dot models dot patients. We could do that. However, the best way would be to use the view import. View import is to be used for namespaces and for what? What are usually the two uses of names of view imports? We put namespace there and we put tag helper as well. That's it. That's it, okay? Siranjit, yeah, great. Christine, Diraj, yeah, Prablin, that's it, okay? That's the home of those two namespaces that are shared across the views and tag helpers as well. So, question is, where do I create the view imports? Is that under shared, under home, under views? Under views, okay? So under views, I'm gonna right click there. I'm gonna create it right away. Add, new item. We're gonna create a view import. View imports. The name is very important. So let's find here, where is it? Razor view. Razor view imports, okay? So the name has to be precisely this. Underscore view underscore. No problem, Philippe. Have a good restart. Philippe is just mentioned here. Anyway. So underscore view underscore view imports, okay? So that's the one. Razor view imports. Click on add. And then we're gonna add here, as someone had mentioned there, add using patient system dot models. Okay? With that, we solve this. Look, now it's fixed. Let's not add the tag helper right now. Let's leave the tag helper a little bit when we need it, when we need the tag helper. Okay? So, next here, what should I do next? Well, let's have a look at the other ones, at the other view, and we're gonna do something similar to this code block there, to this razor, this block here. We should set the layout, and we should set the view bag title as well, to set the title of the view. So I'm gonna copy this block. I'm gonna reuse that. I'm gonna go to the register, and I'm gonna put it right below here. Layout is the same. However, view bag, we are in the registration, so we're gonna say add new patient. Okay. We are setting the layout and we are setting the title. Now, what should be our first tag here? It's a simple, we are using very plain, very vanilla, very simple HTML. What should be the first tag? Prablin says create a form. Which tag should I be using? I open a tag. I should be using a what? A form tag. Okay? Great. So we're gonna put our fields inside of here. Now I can use a tag helper here. Let's have a look. ASP dash. Look, tag helpers are not available right now. The tag helpers, they always start with ASP dash, but I don't see that in the list. The reason is because I don't have what? I have to add what? I have to add what where? In the view imports, I have to add the tag helper, okay? Tag helper is a long line. It has a directive name and then an assembly name. I don't recommend you to type that. I recommend a copy and paste. I'm gonna copy the one here that Diraj has posted. So I'm gonna copy that from the chat. I'm gonna paste it here. Okay, so again, copy and paste. Make sure that you are not typing this. Very easy to get yourself confused with plural and singular. Don't try typing this. Even space may get you into troubles. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna go back there and let's try this again. ASP dash. Look, now we have the tag helpers. You see that? Now we're gonna say that the action here is, what is the action here? We don't have an action yet for that, but again, what could be the name here of my post action? I could say register here. Okay, and then I can set the methods. This is a form that the user will fill out. It's gonna submit. It's gonna do a post. So I'm gonna say post here. Okay, I'm gonna close this, and here is my form tag. There is one optional parameter in the form that is called ASP-controller. If you don't set the controller, it's gonna call the same controller as the folder that you are in. In this case, home controller. So we don't need that. Okay, we don't need, because we are in the home controller, and we are submitting this to the home controller as well. So we don't need that. Okay, so just action, ESP action register. That's it. Now we're gonna list field by field by field, mapping back to the properties. You're gonna start with the name. You're gonna say, I'm gonna make it a very simple HTML form here. We're gonna make it look a little bit better afterwards, okay? But for now, let's just focus on the main elements here. So I'm gonna say name. This will be my label, okay? You can use a label tag as well, but I'm just gonna say name here. And then which tag, which control, which HTML control are we gonna use to collect the name of the patient? What is the control here? What is the tag that we're gonna be using here? So probably ASP4 is the tag helper, okay? The tag is the input tag, okay? So we're gonna say input. That's the tag, and then we're gonna say ASP-4. ASP-4 is another tag helper that now I can link this input to the property, which is called name. Okay? And I can close this. Now look at this. This name is a match to the property name. What if I change this to, let's say, first name? Look what happens. You see the red line, the squiggly red line? This is because our model doesn't have a property called first name. Doesn't have a public property called first name. So again, this is called model binding. We are binding our form to the model that we are using. We are making this view strongly typed because it's tied to the model. Okay, so we're gonna keep here name. There's a question here, private. Let's see, it's a little bit long, so give me a second here. So it says, sir, can you please clarify if at model patient here attached to view to the patient model, if so, does the information move both ways? I mean, does the information enters in the view get sent to the model and the information in the model gets sent? Okay, so I'm gonna put in different words here. I think I know what you're asking. Just because we put the model here and link to patients, just because we did that, it doesn't mean that the model is talking directly to the view. Remember, I always said that the controller is the one that does this connection. But then what is strange here is that, oh, you said that the controller does this, but now you have the model attached directly to the view. That's fine, this is just a type, okay? This is not the data yet. The controller is the one that gets the data from the model and calls the view with that data. We are just making sure that the view is expecting a patient, but the data is not coming directly from the view to the model or from the model to the view. No, it's all going through the controller. And you're gonna see that in a second because we're gonna link this in the controller in a little bit. The controller is still there, getting the information from the model, sending it to the view in case we want to display, or getting information from the view, sending to the model in case we are saving information. So there's a follow-up. So basically, the model is there to let the view know if should be expecting information from the model, but that information is actually given. Yes, that's correct. That's very correct. This is here just to help facilitate the communication. You just say, hey view, expect a patient. But again, the patient data, the information, it's still sent from the model to the controller, from the controller to the view. Okay? So I think you got it. When we go to the next step, it becomes a little bit more clear and we're gonna see that in action. Okay? So we're gonna do this for each attribute. So we have name, we have age, okay, so we have again for each one, let's just do some copy and paste here. We have address, we have occupation, has insurance. Look, has insurance, we can also keep it as an input, but because we are using tag helper, when tag helper identifies that has insurance is a boolean, it's gonna show a checkbox instead of a text box. Okay? So has insurance, we're gonna ask this as a question, and we have had previous operation as well. Had previous operation. And then we have marital. Okay, so marital status is the one that is a little bit different. Which control are we gonna use to have the user being able to choose the marital status? Which control are we gonna be using? Which HTML tag are we using that for that? Gonna be using the what? Which HTML tag are we using? A radial. We could use a radial. We could. However, I'm gonna choose a drop down here to save a little bit of space, just for sake of simplicity. Okay. So I can say select ASP-4 again, and this will be linked to marital status, and then we're gonna add the options here. I'm gonna say option, I can say value equals to 1 for single, and then we do that for each one. 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna use the different status there. And I'm just gonna move this a little bit so we can get more space here, a better spacing. Okay, so we have marital status, and that's about it. Because remember, registration date, we don't ask for that, we just collect that behind the scenes. What would be the last element here before I can make this form work? Which element is missing here? What else would I have to put? Yes, Diraj, we have to put a button. We have to add a button. That's correct. Okay. Samira, the date is being collected right in the model. Okay. So it's already here. We don't need to ask for the date. It's being done behind the scenes. We're going to display the date later, but we don't need to collect from the user. It's the system will take care of that for us. Okay. So we're going to say button type, and the type is a submit, and we're going to close this. We're going to call this save. Okay. So probably are we going to use checkbox for the insurance and the other one? Yes. Yeah, actually. So here's the thing, probably good question. Because we are using because we're using a tag helper will identify this type being Boolean. Because it identifies that, it does that automatically for us. It's gonna be converting this to an input, to a checkbox automatically for us. So we don't need to define that. Okay? You're gonna see. Let's run this. Okay, so we have a basic form with all the elements in place. What should I do next to be able to see this form? What should I do? Now I need to display it. What else should I do in the code to display this? Okay, yes, problem. Dermik, let's not do the repository yet. Let's not save it yet. I just want to see it. I just want to see the form. For me to see the form, I need to create a view. Sorry, an action. I'm gonna go to the home controller. I'm gonna say public view result. We're gonna call this register. And with that, I'm gonna say return view. And by doing this, I will be able to display the registration. Let's run this. Go ahead, you can ask the question. I'm gonna run here. Question for you. What should I type in the URL to access the register form? What should I type here? Probably you can ask your question and I'll read it unless you want to speak. But again, probably yes. We're gonna do that in a second. Okay, probably we're gonna decorate that. Hold on a second, but we're gonna do that. So again, everyone, how do I access the registration? Okay, let's try here /register. So let me ask you this. When you see this URL, what is the controller of this URL using the default route? What is the controller there? The controller here is being registered, okay? But register is not a controller. Register is the action. So, as lots of you are saying there, we need to add home/register. Okay? So here you have our ugly form because we didn't put any line breaks there, okay? So I'm going to reformat the HTML of our view. I'm gonna put this inside the table, okay? I'm not gonna explain you how to use a HTML table. You can find that on your own if you need that. But I'm just gonna copy a bunch of HTML here. The main code is the same, but I'm just formatting this a little bit better, okay? Just reformatting here. That's it. Just reformatting, and I'm adding another button at the bottom called cancel, which goes back to the index, okay? That's the only thing that I'm adding here. The rest of it is just tables, rows, and columns. I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna just refresh the view here. Look, now it looks a little bit better, a little bit more decent, okay? Great, but if I fill this up, if I put stuff here, it's not gonna do anything. We are not saving it yet, okay? So let's close this. Let's go to our controller. And now, yes, Prablin, we need to do some decorations here. Look, we're gonna be using register for both get and post, okay? Because we need to differentiate them, we need to create a copy of this method but one will be for getting the page, the form, to view the page. The other one will be for posting the data. Okay, so for the first one, I'm gonna decorate this with what? How should I decorate the first one? To be displaying the view, to be showing it. I'll be decorating with HTTP get here. Okay, and the second one, I'll be decorating with HTTP post. Okay, now this is not enough to make them different. Right now they are still the same because they have the same parameters. This is called method overloading. Right now they are not overloading because they are exactly the same. What should be the input parameter for the HTTP post method? What should be? Probably yes, you still need to decorate, okay? Because you still need to differentiate which one is for get and which one is for post, okay? You need to decorate because it won't, MVC won't be able to know which one is which, okay? So we have to give a patient object here. I'm gonna call it P, patient P, okay? Of course, to use patient, I have to add the namespace at the top, so we add this one here, okay? Okay, great. Now, all good here. However, we are not yet doing anything with P. We have to save the patient, correct? Save the patient information. So, here's the question. What should I do next here? What should I create next? Okay, probably yes. Ashik, let's not do the thank you. We could do the thank you, but let's leave the thank you for the last step. We could definitely do it now. That's fine. But I want to go through the repository first, okay? Because what we're gonna do next here is we're gonna save this patient before we send to the thank you view, okay? So in the models, I'm gonna be creating a very simple repository. We're not gonna be using databases. We're not gonna be using dependency injection. We're gonna be creating a very simple and straightforward class, which is actually static, to store our data, okay? Only in memory. So under models, I'm gonna create a new class, new item. I'm gonna go to select class. I can call this patient repository, because we have a very simple application. I'm just gonna call with one single repository. I'm just gonna call it repository. That's it. I'm just gonna call it repository. Also, because we're gonna be, we don't really want to instantiate objects of this type. We just want to hold it in memory, all the patients. I'm gonna make it as a static class, okay? Static class, you don't need to declare an object to use it, okay? So I'm gonna say public static class repository, and then inside of our repository, we have the list of patients. Remember, if you did Comp 1, 2, 3 with me, you should remember that we keep data private and we expose data by using properties, okay? Okay, Philippe, if you don't make it static, I'm gonna describe it like that. If you don't make it static, every time you post, you have to recreate a new repository. The object doesn't stay in memory in the server, okay? If you want the object to persist across across posts, you need to make it static for the application. Okay? Otherwise, we have to use a different strategy to be able to keep the repository data across posts. Okay? If you make it static, you're gonna have this in memory for the entire time that the application is running. If you don't make it static, every time you post, you're gonna have to recreate it and you're gonna lose the previous patients. Again, we are dealing with an in-memory repository, okay? We're not dealing with database yet. Database is great because if you post, it saves there. When you need to read the list, I'm gonna read from there. In the case that I'm using just the memory, I need this to stay in the memory, okay? That's the idea. So, again, if you did component 2.3 with me, you know that we keep data private, we expose data via public methods. So we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna keep a private list of patients here. So we're gonna say private, static because this is a static class, and static classes can only have static members, okay? So private static list of patients, I'm gonna call this patients, lowercase p because this is a private member. And then I'm gonna say that I'm gonna not only declare, but I'm going to create it here. So I'm gonna say new list of patients. I'm gonna call the constructor, and here I have my private list of patients. That's where I'll be storing the patient information. Voice again? Is that problems with the voice? Sanjib, you seem to be the only one with problems there. Okay, great. Okay, so we have a private field, patients. Now, we need to expose that. We're gonna expose via a public property. We're gonna say public static as well, because we are in a static class. The type, I'm gonna keep the same type, and I'll talk about type in a little bit, okay? The type, let's keep the same. I know that we talk about IEnumerable, iQueryable. For now, let's just keep the same. I will raise this point a little bit down the road. Let's call this patients. And then let's say get return patients. So I'm returning the private patients here, okay? Question, is there a simpler way to state this, to make this? If I want to make this one single line, of course I can break the lines here, but if I want to simplify this, yes, Ranjit, we can use lambda here, yes. So we could use something like this instead. We could say that, okay? That would be the same way, the same thing. I'm gonna keep that. Remember that this is only applicable when you have when you have read-only properties, okay? But yes, you can do this. So I'm gonna actually keep it like this, okay? Great, so we have a way now. We have a way to store information, okay? Now, if we go back here, my intention is to call repository, because remember, repository is a static class. So I can say repository, but then you want to add this patient to the list there. So for that, we're gonna use a method. We're gonna create a method here that will allow us to add new patients to our private patient list. So I'm gonna create a public static void method called, let's say, add patient, which accepts a patient p, and there's no return because it's void, but it says patients lowercase p dot adds this patient here. That's about it. Then this is saving. Again, we are using a repository in memory only. Okay, so I'm gonna say add patient, and I'm gonna send p to it. Now we are persisting in memory the patient information. Okay. Any questions so far here? And by the way, I'm not checking. Sorry, I have not been checking Padlets. I think that's you have asked this in the chat as well. Yeah, you have that. This was asked there. Great. Yep. Good. Okay. So again, I'll pause anyway for a second here. Any questions so far? Let's run this. Let's run, but I'm gonna put a breakpoint here to make sure that our P is really doing what it needs to be done. Can we also add patient use set properties? If to be honest, Siranjit, I did not test that, but I'm quite sure that if you have a set for patients, yeah, I think that there is a problem if you do the set here, because you'd have to create a list of patients to be able to set to it. I'm not sure if it would work here, to be quite honest, Siranjit. You can try, good if it works, but if it does not, use a method like this, you know. Again, we just don't have time right now to test that, but give it a try. If it works, if it's showing the patient's information, great, it works, okay? But I have my doubts if this will make it very complicated, to be quite honest. In any case, let me go back here. Let's try this. Let's move forward here. Samira, I'm gonna try to show the ID part, but we may not have time for that, okay? So, if you want to see that ID part, refer back to the video that I show with the video of the guy that describes how to use the ID. The ID is used in the URL. Let's see if we have time for that. Let's see here. Okay, so I should go to the form here. I don't have a navigation yet. Home, register. Here's the form. Let's give this a try. And see, it stopped here. If I look at patient P, look at the information, you see all the information there. Address, age, insurance information, marital status, name, occupation, everything is there. Okay? And we are saving in memory, but now we need to send this to the thank you view. Okay? So we need to send the information to the thank you view. So let's create our thank you view. Under views, home, I'm gonna say add new item. Razor view. Thank you. This one here will be very simple. It's gonna be attached to a model because you're gonna send the patient information there. So I'm gonna say add model. It's gonna receive a patient. And I'm just gonna open another one here. I'm gonna copy the code block. It's gonna use the same layout. I'm gonna say thank you as the title. And then we have the text. The text is patient has been successfully blah blah blah. So let's copy this. In the thank you, I'm gonna say, let's say H2. I have the message, and the message says patient. This we should replace with at model dot name, the name of the patient, the occupation of the patient, and then the current date and time, the registration date, sorry. So we are just replacing here. What is the question there? Okay, whenever we define input with type boolean form, we get checkbox. Yeah, that's correct. If we use the tag helper plugin, yes, it automatically, as Ashik is saying, it automatically detects the boolean type. Okay. Okay, so now we should have our thank you. Oh, sorry. My bad. We have to call it. So in our controller, instead of calling the default view of the action, we're gonna call thank you view, okay? And we're gonna send to it the patient that is coming here, that has been saved. I'm gonna send to it as well. So we call the view and we send the model to it, okay? Let's run this. So now I can go to register. I can register myself there. And then look at this. My name, Edson Oliveira, has been successfully registered as instructor on this date. Okay, that's the thank you. Now we have the thank you. We have almost everything in place. However, we don't have the list yet. But before we do the list, how about we create our navigation in the layout file? Let's go to the layout and put our navigation options there. So I'm going to go to the layout file. At the top, I'm going to open another div to store our navigation items. I'm going to say I'm going to create a link to go back to the home page. I'm going to say ASP-action equals to go back to the home page, we have the action index. Okay, I'm going to say home. I'm going to put just a pipe to separate them. I'm going to now say the action, the register one. So I'm going to say register. And this will be add new patient. I'm going to put another pipe there, and I'm going to say ASP dash action. And then let's link to the list. List we don't have yet, but we're going to create it next. So list of patients. So now we have three options, okay? Because we put this in the layout, it gets shared across the entire, or across all views. Have a quick look here. Look, we have that there. We can click. List of patients, of course, we don't have it yet, but we're gonna have that in a second. Okay. Now let's do the list. Let's do the list of patients. So in the home controller, I'm going to create another action. So public view results. We're going to create the list now. No parameters here, but our list will just call return view. We're going to create a view called list. What is the data? What is the information that we have to send to this new view, the list view? What is the information? What is the what is it that we need to send to it? Can anyone tell me in the chat? Yeah, so we have to send the list of patients, not just the repository, okay? Let's send exactly what it's expecting, the list of patients. So we're gonna say repository dot list, dot patients, okay? We're gonna send exactly that. Now, let's create, before we take care of a few more things here, let's create our list view. So on the home folder, I'm gonna go to add new item, and then in the new item, I'm gonna select razor view. Once again, I'm gonna call it a list. It's our new view here. I'm gonna add, and then I'm gonna say at model. At model will be linked to what? What is the type here that at model will be linked to? At model to the list of patients. Okay, let's link this to a list of patients. Now I'm just gonna say this. Sometimes we use IEnumerable, iQueryable. Let me tell you, IEnumerable and list will not make much difference. However, when we are dealing with databases, it's best to use iQueryable. For now, for the sake of our exercise and our test, we can keep everything consistent and just use list to simplify across all of them, okay? Okay, so we connect to the list, that's our model. Following the other views, we're gonna have to add the layout and the title, list of patients, okay? And how should I format this? What should I use to display our list of patients? What should I do here? Use a table. Okay, so let's use a table. Let's have the header, tr. Let's say, let's show the name of the patient. For now, just the name and the address. Okay? Now, which control, or not control, sorry, which code, which command should I use to go through the list of patients? What should I use here? Jangjit, for each loop. We can use a for each loop here. We can do something like this, at for each what? For each, let's say, patient, yes, in model, okay? So for each patient, because we have a list of patients, for each patient P in model, okay? Then we're gonna print it out. We're gonna print the name and the address. You're gonna say tr td, and then here I'm gonna say at p.name and then at p.address. Okay, so I'm gonna say name and address, and that's about it. Let's give this a try. So now I can go to the list, but there is no patient there. I'm gonna add a new patient. Now if I go to the list of patients, I can see my name there, okay? Great, so it's working. Now there are a few more details here. Next detail, the little detail here is the list of patients. The list view must display the list of patients in alphabetical order. Yes, Sanjib. So how do we do that? Well, let's go to the controller. We're gonna be using order by, yes. So I'm gonna break the lines here a little bit just so we see this better. So I'm gonna use this method called order by, and I can use lambda expression here to say each patient P order by P dot name. Close this. Okay? However, order by returns an I enumerable. So if I had an I enumerable in my list view, that's fine. That will be fine. However, because I set it up as a list directly in the controller, I have to convert, yes, Arsh, I have to convert this to a list. So I have to say to list, and I have to say the type, patient. So I'm converting the I enumerable back to a list. That's what I have to do, unless I would be using an I enumerable directly. Okay, it makes it a little bit more complicated, but not that much. That's it. So this will order the patients by name. Now, last step here of our code is to add the CSS in the image file. Okay, so I'm gonna add two folders in the www root folder. I'm gonna say add folder CSS, also add folder images. In the CSS folder, I'm gonna add a CSS there, add new item. I'm gonna go to content, style sheet. I'm gonna call this styles. You don't have to call it any particular name. You can give it the name you want. I'm not gonna use Bootstrap Problin because first of all, the exercise is not asking for that, so you can use, that's fine. But I want you to be able to add your own CSS as well, okay? Okay, so let's add here. I'm gonna just delete everything there. I'm gonna put a style in a second. Let's add an image to our folder. You can add any logo. To be honest, don't need to worry about that too much, okay? So I'm just gonna get a file and upload to this folder, add to this folder here. So here's my file. Here it is, patient. This is a big file. So I'm gonna go to the layout. I'm gonna add the CSS in the file here. So to link to the CSS, I'm gonna use the link tag. I'm gonna say rel equals to style sheet. And I'm gonna say href equals to CSS styles. And I'm gonna close this. So I made a reference at the top to the style sheet. And then here, I'm gonna add the image. img src images patient. Let's get this a try. Let's see if this is working. Okay, so I added the styles, I add the image. I'm gonna try this. Look, it is working, but the image is quite big. So let's use a little bit of style sheet styling to fix this, to make this smaller. So I'm just gonna add two definitions there in the style sheet to make this, yeah, just to play around a little bit with the style. So I'm gonna say width equals to 80 pixels. It floats to left so we can show information on the right side. So we are using the logo class CSS class, okay? So in the layout, I'm gonna say image class equals to logo. I'm gonna refresh, and now we should have this a little bit better here. Sorry. Okay, so this is because this might be cached. Oh, I didn't save it. Okay, no attendance today, okay? So that's okay, that's all fine. No attendance for the day. If you need to drop, you can drop at any point. I just want to stretch a little bit more to give you an idea of how to use the ID. So again, this is it, everyone. The code is there in Centennial. You can find it under files. And under files, you can find it patient system. The code is right here, okay? All the codes. You can review the video if you want to, but this is it. This is exercise. It's gonna get you ready for the test. Probably.
Hi, Professor.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, Sanjit speaking. So, Professor, do you have to tell us about the test format details?
About the what?
For test format details?
The test format?
Yes.
We just did an exercise. That's the format of the test.
Okay. Any multiple choice question? Anything?
It's a full hands-on, one project only. That's it.
Okay, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. So why are we putting? Okay. So there are some questions here. We need to add image in form only. No, the image is in all pages, okay? Probably. That's why we did this in the layout. Okay, I'm just looking at the questions here. So why are we putting it in the? No, the image is in all pages. Probably. It's a logo, the logo of the site, okay? Shivansh, if we just download Bootstrap from Bootstrap, okay. Thank you for the session. See you tomorrow. Yes, see you all tomorrow, everyone. The ID, Samira. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you. Shivansh, you can download any version of Bootstrap at this point. Again, if you just add Bootstrap, it's gonna pretty things up a little bit. If you want to pretty up a table, just put class equals to table in the table, okay? You too. So Samira, let me just give you a quick hint here about the ID. So for the ID, you can go to the list as you print out the names of the patients. You can say something like this: at a ASP dash action equals to, let's say that you have a detail view to see the details of the patient. You're gonna say details, then you're gonna say ASP dash routes, sorry, just that one, dash ID. You can say that to fill out the ID, and then in the value of the ID you can put the ID of the patient, or if you want to filter by, if you want to display by the name of the patient, you can say something like this, okay? Then the name of the patient becomes the problem here. That's okay. So the name of the patient becomes the ID of the patient. Now, ideally, this ID would be a number, but if you want to try it with the name and filter by the name, then you can do this. So your ID becomes the name, and then you can filter the list of patients by the name. You get the patient and you send that patient to the details. Again, it's just a little bit rushed here. You can give it a try. If you want to ask me any questions about that, you can send me your code. I can answer them. But again, this will be an optional bonus question, bonus note in the test, okay? That's about it. Thanks so much, everyone. I hope that gives you some sort of direction, Samira, okay? Again, let me know if you have any other questions about that. Thanks so much, everyone. I'll see you all tomorrow. Rest. Let me know if you have any questions, any doubts. Otherwise, I'll see you all tomorrow. Is the exam available? Clara. Oh, Clara. I'm talking with the previous class. Okay, so I'm gonna drop the call. I'll be back in 5 minutes for the exam. No problem. Bye, everyone.